Yes, yes, indeed.
All right, welcome back to the Insufferable Grifter Show. I'm your host, Mulan Throneberry, and I'm here with.
Zoe, hello.
So, you want to tell them how we met?
I mean, if you want to go back as far as basically our parents meeting each other
Yeah.
in the same adoption organization.
Okay, so we were adopted, not together though.
Yeah.
So, what was that thing called?
It was called. I think it was. I would say there was a Chinese Adoptee Association. I think it was called the Chinese Children Adoptee Association.
The CAA. I don't know.
Maybe.
Was it FCC?
Oh, it could be
Families with
FCC.
Children from China.
Oh yeah, like that. Or it could be like
We
that.
just made up our own thing. Y'all,
Yeah.
y'all join our thing. It's
Yeah.
called CCAA. The cacao.
Yeah, the caca.
No, we were part of the. So yeah, for those of you that aren't familiar, China had this really fun little law in place for a while that said if you have more than one kid, something's gotta happen.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta Hunger Games them out. You're only keeping one, and that's how we got here.
It was mostly women too that got booted off the island. Sadly.
This week, a hot new bombshell enters the U.S. Yes.
1 million Chinese babies, preferably girls.
So yeah, that's the thing is, so if you ever see a bunch of Asian girls are our age that don't speak Chinese and stuff, there's a reason why.
Raised by white
We
people.
were raised by white people. We're starting our own coalition called RBWP, raised by white people. So yeah, so basically all these, well, they're not all white, but let's be honest, most people that are adopting internationally are white people, and we'll get into that in a second. But so yeah, it's preferred, or it was preferred to have a son, which I don't know why. I guess so
It's culture. It's definitely culture. They're not as bad anymore, but back then it was under because Confucianism, and back in Confucianism, it's literally
well-read. You know your shit.
I know because Korea right now, I know it's a different country, but Korea is very into that law of integrating Confucianism because it basically means the woman, whoever you are, it's you obey the father and the grandfather, and when the son comes of age, you then obey the son because it's still a man.
Oh, fuck no.
Yeah, it's a very anti-feminism. Think of it like that.
That's Trump's America.
So it's China used to be in that way. Not anymore. I don't think it's ever that bad anymore. I've been told, because I want to be well informed on the stuff, and I don't want to definitely generalize a whole billion group of people. So, but that is why a lot of them say oh, women are not great. They won't take care of us. So they're just okay, bye.
That's crazy. They were yeah, one day I'm gonna be 80 and this kid's only a day old, so what do I want? My future self or this kid I've barely known? Fuck them.
Yeah, basically.
So also I forgot to mention if you say anything and then you're oh, I don't want that to be aired, just let me know and I'll cut it. And
I think right now it's fine. I mean, you want to be what I'm saying, I know of Korean culture is I'm not saying anything that's prejudice against Koreans that. What I'm saying is I have been told by other people who are Korean that yeah, this is a very big problem. Men, not all Korean men obviously, but a lot of men in Korea to a point where it's yeah, women do not feel safe at all. It's going through a lot right now, actually, a lot of trouble. Their president right now is literally about to be impeached because he had martial law.
I saw that, and then they voted unanimously to be no, dude. I'm that's crazy to imagine
He had
having,
that.
Yeah.
He had that in the middle of the night. People literally from the opposition party had to climb over fucking fences because they had the military barring them off, and they're the military literally we don't want to do this, but we have no choice because he told us to. Because men in Korea have to go into the military. They have no choice.
I don't like that. That's how Switzerland is.
Really?
Yeah, I don't love that. I understand why, but I don't like it. I don't like that we have the draft in the U.S.
Yeah. But I think what it was good, though, I think this is the only good thing I saw was a lot of the men, because they had to go to the military, had the military training still into them. So they were able to do hand-to-hand combat with the other
With the
military.
president.
Well, not with the president, but like the military, like they had their guns, but they didn't obviously want to shoot them or hurt them because most of them are their own family, so they must have
Right.
just had it down, and they were just telling them like go away or back up.
That's so scary. But also, like, I could never imagine in the U.S. people voting unanimously for anything. Like, if it was...
It would have to be something very crazy. Like,
but,
very
there's a lot of
crazy.
shit that's been crazy that they're still like, yeah, let's get rid of the Department of Education. Who cares?
It's because you hear one thing from the media and then you're like, oh, that's it. And they'll have like little quote unquote proof points, like little bits of information that makes it sound sane, but they don't read the whole story. And so then they're like, oh, it's actually not this, what you think to believe.
Literally.
And so it's just kind of like I fight with my dad a lot about this. We have arguments. I cannot lie. As I've gotten older, I'm becoming a little more liberal and liberal each day.
Slay.
And and it's my dad's very conservative, and it's not because like I try to see. I'm a private person, try to see both views, but at the point where it's your morals and the people's well-being endangered, and those like I said, quote unquote laws being passed, I don't agree with it because it's like at the end of the day, we're still human. We're trying to live. We're trying to survive. And why are you trying to hurt everybody? Because what? By someone who told you of what's happening in the U.S.? Like,
Literally. No. Yeah, that's exactly how I am. And okay, so that brings me to my next big thing is, have you noticed it's mostly white people and white conservatives that adopt internationally?
It's because of the Christian value hold. As someone who grew up in the church and who grew up Southern Baptist here, because if you don't know, like in the South, we have Southern Baptist is very apparently different from normal Baptist or like regular Baptist.
And I've grown up in Alabama. I don't know the difference between Southern Baptist.
I don't know the difference. I assume it's just the area and maybe how we are like do congregation. Maybe how we do.
I'm gonna look it up. Keep talking.
Maybe it's the way we preach. I don't know. For sure. Do not quote me on that, but I did not know that there was a difference between Southern Baptist and like I guess regular Baptist.
Northern Baptist,
Northern
Midwestern Baptist,
maybe. But
SoCal Baptist.
but I think it's because in the Bible, especially like as a Christian myself, I'm definitely not perfect, but I do believe in God. I think it's just like you want to give to others, and so God gave you this blessing, this life to have this money, and so what do? You give it back, and by giving it back, some people might think of adoption, because adoption is very expensive. And my parents, at least, I think it was because they wanted to give kids a better life because they couldn't have kids, so they got me. And they didn't even know they were going to get my brother, by the way.
Did
they thought it was just me.
Up and they were like, it's a 2-for-1 deal today.
They literally, a month before they were going to leave out, they said, oh, by the way, she has a twin brother. And they're like, what? And they said, yeah.
Deal.
And they said,
crazy.
Well, never, they wish it was a BOGO deal. No, they still have to play for double. For like, one for me, one for my brother. So
they still have to pay for it?
Yeah, they still have to pay for my brother because they wanted him because they're like, they're twins, right? And they said, yeah. And I'm like, oh, I don't want them to be separated. No.
That's crazy. I guess it makes sense. It costs twice as much, but
yeah.
Shit.
Well, I mean, they just won, like, they had to pay the expenses and everything for one child, so they basically had to do it for another child. So,
true.
But they also had to pay all the guy stuff because they all got girl baby clothes and toys, and now they're like, oh, we're having a boy too. So they had to go back to the store and buy more.
Thrown in there. That's awesome.
Basically, I think I didn't realize how rare it is for siblings when they're adopted, like especially me and my brother, to be adopted together.
Yes.
It's very rare.
Real quick, Southern Baptists are more conservative, so yes, you're right.
I thought it was more conservative. Like, I didn't realize the difference between the conservatism and like liberalism and I wasn't even media, just like people talking and their beliefs. Yeah. Until I got out more and I was like, geez Louise, that's a lot. Yeah. But you were talking about the conversation of why they do it. I think it's because literally religion.
We went into that and then we went into I suffer from ADHD.
I might as well too. Just might as well self-diagnose myself because
I was diagnosed today and Zoe will be diagnosed next time she goes to the doctor.
Probably. I haven't asked.
Wait, we were talking about, okay, how do we get to this train of thought?
You were asking about why
it's always conservatives and white people that internationally adopt, and then we talked about how it's rare for siblings. Let's touch on that again. Did you hear that, or am I losing my mind?
No, I heard that. People are crazy. I have to just ignore it, and they'll ignore you. They can't get in here.
Just going like,
We'll hear gunshots if we know.
Literally, I'm like, okay, like blink twice if you need help, dude. But and then siblings. Yes.
You're good.
So for me and a lot of other adopted people, I feel like the likelihood that I have a sibling, especially given the one child policy, is pretty high. Like I probably have a brother, but like I'm never gonna know that. And so do you know if you had like other siblings, or if it's just you and Zach, or like?
I feel like we probably did have another sibling. That's why they got, they put me and my brother out for adoption. And it's crazy, like the adoption stories we have, because me and my brother are born in one hospital, and our parents had us for like a month to take care of us, and they realized they couldn't take care of us. And then so they grabbed both of us and our birth certificates and put us on the steps of another hospital.
Oh my God.
So someone could find us. That is the best circumstance you can ever get, because I've heard crazier stories of like some friends of ours that we know. One was found in a laundry basket with just a piece of paper and their Chinese name and a birthday. One didn't even have a birth certificate. Like apparently it's more common to not have a birth certificate.
I didn't.
Really?
I had the Harry Potter treatment. I literally like the stereotypical like infant in basket, tape note to shirt. And my dad still has the note. He cries every time he reads it. And it's like, oh, this is this baby. Take care of her. Like, yeah, I didn't have like an official birth certificate or anything, but they left me on the doorstep of a school because they knew like, okay, this will probably be safe because families with kids will be around. Like it's well staffed, blah blah blah. So, but yeah, the thing is, a lot of people like died. Like
my mom told me about it, and it's really sad because she says like it's not really good to talk about it a lot, because a lot of kids who pass a certain age don't really make it because the adoption centers don't have enough money to give these kids the basic needs, and so they don't make it. Yeah, well, I mean, me and my brother had ear infections, like really bad ear infections, so we had to get tubes twice in our ears.
Oh my God. Yeah, I might have to get tubes put in like now.
Well, they looked at us and they're like, you have tubes in your ears. And when I remember you and a friend of ours, like, you're both half deaf. And I'm like, I feel like me and my brother would be both half deaf if we didn't have tubes in our ears.
Yeah, that's the other thing is like, I wonder like what was going on in these orphanages. Like
they didn't have enough funds. Like it was just too many kids, not enough money. Because my dad said my mom and dad both like, they agreed. I mean, it was enough to keep a roof over your head, but it was just the basic necessities. And they gave
that's
us,
what we're like all entitled to, which is a controversial opinion, unfortunately. But yeah.
And then we had what I know is that me and my brother, we would just drink like chalk milk. It's like it wasn't even like the powdered milk that has nutrients.
Like straight up Nesquik?
Yeah, I would say it's like Nesquik. We don't know the brand, but it just was very cheap is what my dad would say. And we were very light when me and dad had us. We were very underweight. And we couldn't lift our heads up even because we were so tiny. And then we had a ring around our heads of baldness because we were rolling around the crib because we couldn't get up. They can only, feed us, pat us, go back to bed.
Right, because there was such an influx of kids that it's like, how are they supposed to take care of like all of these kids that were just thrust upon them basically. And so dad, as soon as we got adopted, my dad immediately started feeding us baby Gerber. That was it. Nice.
Lots of baby Gerber, ladies and gentlemen. If I didn't have that, I would be shorter than I am now.
And that's the other thing. Okay, so before we started filming, Zoe was saying like, did you know Chinese people are getting taller?
They are.
I was like, what? That's crazy. But now I'm like, maybe it's because they're feeding them and like keeping them. Maybe it's because their parents are not Harry Pottering them.
Well, I want to say it's also, you have to think about this. We lived at least me and my brother, we lived in the southern part of Guangdong province, which is Guangzhou. But we lived in Foshan, and they could be they say like people from the south are mostly naturally shorter. And then people more up north, like Beijing and all that stuff. And like, I would say Xi'an, but other provinces up north.
That pronunciation was on point.
I
don't speak Chinese, but I know how you say it.
I took Chinese lessons first off. Do I remember? Barely. But I try to
Spanish. And
hey, look, that's so good though. That's so good. The only Spanish I know is like hola, ¿cómo estás?
That was a good accent too.
So, but they're not actually taller, but I think it's also because the wealth. Like, these kids were definitely wealthy. You can tell by the clothes, and they seem they've been here before. Because
how do you spell that word you just said?
Xi'an, Xi,
Xi,
and then like a little like apostrophe,
okay,
and then An. Xi'an.
Oh yeah, see, I would have been like Jean Valjean.
You're good, Xi'an. It's crazy.
It's these little dudes.
The little dudes
like
is crazy.
That, like, from Wendy Wu Homecoming Warrior.
Oh my gosh, the terracotta soldiers.
Yeah.
I love Wendy Wu, by the way.
Same.
I love Wendy Wu because it was the only diverse besides like Mulan we had.
That's my name. Yes, literally, like, that's another thing is like Asian representation in media is like so bad. Like, we had London Tipton, who was a dumbass.
Yeah.
And then we had Wendy Wu Homecoming Warrior, who was a badass. And then you go back and it's like Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
Like,
we only had 3, which now it's crazy because you know how much Asian culture has blown up in the past 5 years?
yes. Now people are like, do you watch anime? And I'm like, okay,
well,
you hated us like 5 years ago.
I remember wearing an Akatsuki robe. I want to be a ninja middle school year. And people looked at me like I was fucking crazy. They were like, what are you? I'm like, oh, you ain't gotta be mean about it.
That's crazy. What are you? It's crazy.
What are you? Like, I'm a ninja. And I'm from the Akatsuki. You ain't gotta be mean about it. It was like middle school. It was like 2012. And so that was
before it was cool to be Asian.
It was cool before like anime. I would say anime was slowly starting to become popular, but it wasn't like mainstream as it is now for sure.
Yeah, like anime and I think K-pop are like having a moment right now.
Do you know how many people thought I was Korean? Like, it was been so many times. Like, you look like, are you Korean? I'm like, no.
I get Korean and Mexican a lot.
I think it's because of Spanish, probably. There's a lot of actual Spanish, like Mexicans, that look Asian.
Yes, like my coworker, I thought she was Asian, but she was Mexican. And it was so funny because I was like, well, and her name was Kim. Like,
so you were just kind of like,
she's Asian.
She's gotta be. She's gotta be.
Right, it's like her name is Kim. Like, it's like the most stereotypical Asian. She's not. She's not. But yeah, being Asian's having a moment right now.
It could be bad or good though, because finally we've seen the light, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, is it because, you know, they appreciate us, or is it for like fetishization and being cool?
Dude, yes.
Because that is it's a big thing. And the thing is though, like, I was trying so hard. I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to date an Asian guy, just because I never have dated an Asian guy. Yeah. Especially when the vast majority of people here.
Give me 1 second. Let me make sure we're still recording.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, we're good.
Especially that the vast majority here where we live is white.
Yes.
And especially where I went to school is white.
Yeah.
And I live is white. Now, people.
She's from the boonies.
Yeah, might as well call it like that. That's what Ace does. And so, you know, it was nice to know that there were becoming more Asians coming to Alabama.
Yes, and not to be stereotypical, but it's because tech and engineering are having a big moment in Huntsville.
Yeah, but
so I gotta get all the Asians here to do all the computers.
But it's true though. Like, LG has a company here, so there's a lot of Korean people moving in, and there's, you know, Daikin, which is a lot of Japanese people moving in. And then recently, a lot of Asians from California moving because the economy in California ain't doing so great.
Yeah. And the economy everywhere is about to be not great. Thoughts on tariffs to everyone out there.
Oh, gosh, I get so mad. Me and my dad had a little bit of an argument. It's like, that's not good though, because that means our prices, like what we are going, like we have now, those low prices are about to skyrocket.
Literally,
because of those tariffs. And it's like, you don't need that stuff anyway. And I'm like, no, it's not just the food I buy, Dad. Because a lot of food I buy are from the Asian market. But I'm like, the clothes. You see the clothes? It says made in China.
Made in China.
Those like toys or products you made in China. Like, I might as well make a made in China freaking sticker on my back of my neck.
I'm like, good thing we were adopted before the tariffs kicked in. It was going to be 60% more expensive to adopt us.
Exactly. I don't think you can afford me.
Yeah, and especially because they weren't giving any deals on the twins.
I know. So it's just, I don't know, that just blows my mind, and I'm like, I agree to disagree to this point.
Hold the mic a little closer, please.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
But I agree to disagree to this point because I just get too frustrated.
Same, yeah. And that's the thing is, like, with politics and stuff, it's hard to be like, dude, please just get it. But then it's also like at some point you just got to be like, you know what? Sure.
It's like beating a bush, talking to a brick wall. You ain't gonna get
literally,
anything.
it's just kind of like, okay, yes, sure. Like I have family members that are like that, where you're just like, yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Understand. I really think it's just a don't understand type of moment. And so, I can only think back and like, you know what? I understand where you're trying to come from, but I don't agree.
Literally,
I really
that's the
don't
best way to
agree.
say it.
I really don't agree with that. I don't believe it just because I'm going to look at it not only like Republicans are doing bad, Democrats have said a lot of stuff and haven't done it either. I can look at both sides. So like that's not me saying, oh, it's just, I'm saying, not saying it's just Republicans. That's just conservatives. Like I know Democrats haven't got their word either. But if you look at the pros and cons of what they're both saying, I'm pretty sure I'd rather have the cons of the Democrats than the cons of the
literally, because I think they're
Republicans.
still looking out for like the people at the end of the day, whereas like Republicans are looking out for a very small percentage of people. It's really, really rich people that they're looking out for,
and that is not a lot of us.
I know. Yeah.
I'm just gonna say this as a generalization. I'm not putting salary out there because saying salary is like dangerous and it can be a lot of stuff, but I am definitely a upper middle class. Like I am. Like I'm very blessed to have that life, and I'm blessed to be here. I really am. And I know God has blessed me with this, but it's just something I realized because I thought everyone had houses like me and everyone was living my lifestyle, and it wasn't. And it was just it was ignorance. It was definitely ignorance. I just didn't know. And more like for me, I would like to be hired because I have the qualifications, not because of my diversity. But that's just me. That's my personal opinion. I feel like there's laws were in place though because some people would rather prefer having a white, even male. Like sometimes they just only want females in general working or women.
Yes, I mean a lot of people think women shouldn't like work, and it's like I love working. There's like never a day in my life where I'm not like working. If I have an off day, I end up doing DoorDash just to like make some money and like spend my time. But like a lot of people think like, oh, women just are not built for it. They're supposed to be at home with the babies and all that. Like
I think there's so many. I have never met that many people that think of that. Thank goodness, because I'm pretty sure I would slap the crap out of them.
Yes,
but
as you should.
My family all agree that women should have the right to work. By the way, they're not that like backwards thinking. So, they want me to work. They want me to have my independence, and they want me to make good money and not to rely on a man. So that's good.
But we'll agree there.
Yeah. There's definitely to agree to disagree. I think it's mostly economics. Economics. I feel like I won't say policies, but like humanity wise maybe. Yeah. They're more like, I don't care what you do, as long as it doesn't affect me, then we're fine. But my family feels like they I guess, for example, LGBTQ, right? They feel like they're always being pushed and pushed. Like, it's always in front of them. Like, it's being pushed out in front of them. And so they feel like, like, I don't mind you talking about it. Just don't force it on me. Like, why do I have to do this or that?
Yeah, like, I see that. But it's also, like, is it not being, like, if you apply the same logic, like, are people not forcing people to be straight? Because, like, you see straight couples on billboards, straight couples in every Disney movie, straight couples in this and that. I want to get hired just because I'm Asian. But I also don't think that's happening. Like,
yeah. I don't think it is either. I feel like it's such a I think it's like depending on what side you see of either media or what you believe in politics, it's like I see it as, oh, they're hiring me as me, but other people might see it as, oh, they're hiring you as Asian. I feel like I deserve that more than you. It could be a pride thing. So
and I feel like there's no way to prove that unless, like, if somebody goes on record and they're like, I hired her because she's Asian, then I'd be like, yeah, I don't like that. But, like, I don't, not that I know of, like, I don't think that's happened.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a straw man argument. It's like, okay, like, if that happens, let me know.
I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I'm so, like, I'm definitely whitewashed. I have no choice to be whitewashed.
Same,
but I don't feel like it's weird to say, but I don't feel like I am American, but I feel like American to a person would look at me and they'll first see me as Chinese, not American.
Literally,
but to a Chinese person, they'll see me as American than Chinese, and so now you're in this middle ground of, well, what am I?
Literally, and I also feel like I'm not even Asian American enough to fit in with other Asian Americans because they still speak Chinese at home with their parents. They still know this and that, and I'm like, some of them like still go back and visit family. I'm like, I don't even have that. Like, I
Yeah.
don't understand any Mandarin. Like, I don't, like, my pronunciation's bad. Like, I know, like, ni hao, but I don't even, that wasn't even right. Like,
Yeah, it's well, Chinese is literally one of the hardest languages to learn because there's so many dialects and the tones is just it's awful. You literally have I feel like because you're a musician, you should be good at it. It's literally had to have pitch perfect tone almost.
yeah, it's crazy. That's why they're all so good at music.
That is true too. That is true
That
too.
was a generalization, but yes.
No, you were. I mean, it's generalization, but it's true because they have to focus on tones to speak, and so if they do it so much to the point, it's like, oh, they have a better time of picking up.
Yeah. If you're Asian and bad at music, hit us up. We want to see if this exists.
They're gonna be like, well, I'm not Chinese, so that's why.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, if you're Chinese and you're bad at music, please email me. We need to see this for ourselves because we don't believe it.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy though because the Chinese I was taught was Taiwanese Chinese, and it's very different from like mainland Chinese.
Where were you learning Taiwanese from?
So my mom knew a woman named Shaw, and she basically taught us Chinese. She had a Chinese class, and they basically knew each other from the same organization, that we got adopted. Because she adopted 2 girls from China.
I took Chinese lessons from someone. I wonder if it's the same person. Is it
Probably. Yeah, it was in Huntsville. It was
Maybe
called
it
the
is.
Huntsville Chinese Village. It used to be called that. Now it's called Yuanbao.
If you are a Chinese teacher in Huntsville that was teaching around, when were you adopted?
I was adopted, so I first came to America in 2001.
Okay, I was 2000. So if you were teaching Chinese around then, hit us up. We have questions.
No, I know who she is. I know who she is. I know
I
who
have
she
questions.
is.
'Cause I don't know if it's the same person.
Well, I know her daughter. Like, we're friends. And we used to go to Chinese camps all the time in the summertime. And she graduated from the college here recently. Or she's about to graduate very soon.
Slay.
So.
And you said they're adopted?
Mm-hmm. They're both adopted from China. It's just, so they kind of had still assimilated to, I guess, the Chinese, like, or Asian American experience because their mom is from Taiwan. But it's Taiwan, not China. So it's a little different. Especially culturally, I would say culturally, it's Taiwan is trying to put a more traditional Chinese tradition.
Yeah.
And the language is also uses traditional Chinese. But rather than that, I mean, I want to say it could be similar in a way to mainland China. They definitely don't like each other, but that's due to politics.
I have heard that, like, it depends who you ask. If Taiwan's part of China, like, if you ask someone from Taiwan, they'll give you, like, an angry
a big
answer.
fat no.
Yeah.
They will give you the fattest no, like, no, we are independent. But I know someone who was mainland Chinese, and he said, no, Taiwan's part of China. Like, why would they not think of that? Like,
That's a sticky one. I don't know.
Yeah, they're like, you might separate from us, but you're still technically under us. Like, you never separated fully from us. We just, it's almost like allowed you to be part of your own, like,
that's like
little country.
Your language. I don't like that.
It's crazy, man. I've heard it from both sides, and I don't have enough information to say which is right, which is wrong. But based on my opinion of morals, I think Taiwan should be its own country, just because if they have always legalized like their own laws and had their own set of rights and rules and have their own constitution and have their own,
I didn't realize it was that independent.
yeah. Like, if I feel like if they had all of that without the help of China, or maybe even if China was technically an umbrella to it,
right,
but they did it all by themselves, trying to make a constitution for themselves, try to do all of this and that, and set their own laws in place. And I feel like Taiwan should have the freedom to be their own, have their own independence.
I mean, it sounds like, just
they have their own government. They have their own, like, republic of voting, and so I could be wrong on this. And don't shoot the messenger, okay? You just inform me. Don't be rude and nasty.
Send her hate mail. I'll put her address in the description.
Damn. First off, but just explain it to me. Why? Just explain it to me, because this is what I think personally, and I just don't like people being forced to do things they don't like to be.
I'm with you based on the very limited knowledge I have. Just like,
I'm very limited too, but it's totally opposite from each other. Totally opposite. And it's just like, oh, and like, I don't know. That's why I mostly speak English depending on the person, because apparently people from the Cantonese area where we're from do not like mainland, like, Chinese who speak like Mandarin. Because they're trying to, well, not only is it different, but it's like recently I've been told they're trying to get rid of Cantonese because it sounds like a not proper Chinese.
That sounds racist. I don't know enough about it.
Racist are your own people. Damn.
That sounds. What's the word for it? Because I guess they're the same race, but it's prejudice. It sounds
Prejudice, xenophobic.
Because we're from
sure.
Isn't Southern China like kind of like country like?
Southern actually Cantonese was the first language of Chinese technically, and then they assimilated to Mandarin. So Mandarin slowly got more popular and more taught. Because the Canton area is just literally Southern China. Like I think it's Guangdong. Let's see. I want to look it up. I know it's Guangdong, which is us, by the way.
Right.
We speak Cantonese. The only Cantonese, by the way, that I know is like Lei Ho. That's it.
What does that mean?
And just literally means like hi, like ni hao.
See, that's the thing too, is like even if I try to get like connected with the culture and stuff, I would still like be learning Mandarin, which is not even like what our families would be like speaking.
I know. I didn't even realize they're like, you're from Guangdong? Why do you speak Mandarin? I'm like, you know what? I don't even freaking know anymore.
Literally, man, like I don't know. I just arrived here on a plane and I started speaking English one day. I don't fucking know. Like, how old were you when you were?
I was. They keep changing it. They say 16 months. They say 14 months. I'm gonna say 14 months if I just do math fairly well. Because I was born in May, and then let's see, June, July, August. So 3. So actually 15 months.
Okay. Yeah.
Or around almost 14, barely over 14 months. So.
Do you know what the average age? I'm gonna
like, oh damn. I mean, I'm glad you think I'm here, but you make it sound like where I'm from is like hell on earth.
Literally, like, I'm glad your parents got you out of the fucking gutter. It's like so 12 and 24 months is the average age of a Chinese adoptee, with most being under 3 years old when adopted by American families, meaning the majority are infants or toddlers when adopted.
Yeah, that checks out. That checks out.
So what happens if like? Because I know in the U.S., if you're in the foster care system, you just age out, and that really sucks because then you don't have someone to, like, go to, you know, when you're 18. But what happens there? Like, do you just spend your life in an orphanage, or do they, like... At what age do you become, like, independent?
That's also because I do keep up with a little bit of news, like Asia in general, and from other Asian Americans or Chinese people who go on social media like TikTok or anything like that. They talk about issues back in their home countries. They recently said that there's not a lot of girls. And so all these men are lonely, and they're like, where are all the women at? And I'm like, you gave them away.
Yeah, you exported them.
They're everywhere else but China. This is what happens.
Literally.
The consequences of your actions.
Literally. And I think that, like, that has led to more, like, human trafficking, hasn't it?
I don't know about the human trafficking part. I haven't heard a lot about that, but I just know a lot of men are like, they're kind of getting fucked over because they're like, why would, yeah, exactly. They're like
the worst end of the deal.
Yeah, and they're like, we can't find a lot of Asian women today, or Chinese women specifically. We can't find a ton of Chinese women. There's not a lot because the ratio is so vastly different.
Yes.
That they're just kind of like, we don't know what to do. And I highly doubt China's ever going to depopulate soon. I mean, we have literally the biggest population in the world.
It's crazy.
But I think it scares them because it's like, oh, you can't find anyone.
Right.
And then, LGBTQ is getting really popular in China too now. Well, more popular. I think it's become more accepting. But I think they haven't legalized marriage yet because also, like, it might be a population control thing because, like, you want to marry a woman but not a man, and it doesn't, you're not going to have a kid because, usually you can't have a kid biologically. Now you can adopt, and it could have other science into it, but, like IVF and stuff like that, but.
I don't know much about IVF, but I know that's a controversial one among, like, adopted people. It's like IVF. I'm not too educated on why, but I know that adoption can be really controversial too. Like,
a lot of people think adoption is controversial because it's as I would say, it's like the white savior moment. It's like, why are you taking these kids away from their home country, their home parents? Like, are you doing it because you really care for them, or are you doing it because you want to feel good about yourself?
Yes, exactly.
And I've seen a lot of, like, not just China, but like other countries around the world. Sadly, it mostly seems to be black kids that be adopted, not treated right, because, and not saying that all, by the way, not saying all, because I do know a lot of white families who adopt black kids and they're treated wonderfully, but there have been some where they're treated like literally equivalent to slaves, that they just got them for labor, and it's just like, what in the world? And so it's crazy, but I've heard that with with Asian people too. It's just kind of like, you're there as a caretaker, not a child, and that's why I needed someone to take care of me. And that's just heartbreaking to hear. It's like, why did you adopt me for? It's like, oh, I need someone to take care of me.
Literally,
not because you love me,
that,
you
or they
want a
wanted
child.
the congregation to give them attention.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, you did such a good job. I mean, you adopted someone from such a horrible place, and you're gonna give them this great place of America.
Literally, yeah.
Look,
I think one of the best things I ever read.
And so it's just kind of like, and my dad knows, and my brother knows that like the people of China definitely don't deserve the flack they get, especially when COVID happened. Oh Lord, that was just. I think that's what radicalized me. That so radicalized me because I was like, what in the world is wrong with y'all? I mean, I get it. You can hate the government all you want. I don't like the government. They fucked up our lives too. But why are you hurting random Chinese people, like Asian Americans? Sometimes it wasn't even Chinese people, just Asian Americans.
Yes, literally.
Out of for no reason or being racist as fuck.
Didn't somebody say something to you? You were out once.
I was. Yes. So my first racist encounter, which is shocking because where I'm from, I'm actually don't really have a lot of racist people that talk to me like that. It was just this one dude. He was definitely still in high school. Looked at me like coughed, like he like started COVID, and I was like rolling my eyes back because I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, fuck off. Now, if he went up to me in my face, I might have punched him. It would definitely be against me because he would still be a minor and I was an adult. But I was just like, what in the world, dude? I told Anna that she wanted to actually go up to him and slap the dog shit out of him because she's like, what the fuck is wrong with him?
She should have.
Yeah, but I was like, no, just like he already walked away. And I'm like, they're high schoolers. It's just like, where we tried as adults.
Yeah.
They're not worth it unless they start something. Then that's fine because they have cameras at Target. Exactly. So, but I'm like, it's not worth it. He's just a stupid moron. So I just didn't really give a shit about him at all. I just rolled my eyes and walked away unless he was like actually trying to antagonize me, like try to threaten me. Then that's when I would do something. But if you're just being snide,
not to us, but to other people.
Man, I follow an Asian news network, and I think that's what also radicalized me because a lot of Asian Americans were getting hurt. Like it was, I think, a trend from at least other parts of the country, not here, that I know of. But they would push down and hurt Asian elderly people for no reason. Awful. And it's just a lot of them died because of it, because it was how much trauma they had from hurting themselves. And a lot of times they wouldn't charge it as a hate crime. It's like, oh, they attack them, but it's not a hate crime though. We don't know they charge it because of race. And I'm like, well, why the fuck would they charge someone for not doing anything? I mean, you're just gonna randomly go up to someone and slap the dog shit out of them?
Literally, yeah. And there was like a big like uptick in like Asian hate crimes, wasn't there? Like after COVID.
I think someone said, I could be wrong, but I can look it up in a minute. I heard it was a 200% uprise. Like it was like it skyrocketed like horribly. And
it's where the Stop Asian Hate thing came from.
Yeah, Stop Asian Hate, and like I was so passionate about it, and I mean, I think that's what, like, I'm a very passionate person about stuff like that, especially. I think racial discrimination is something I do not tolerate.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
And it is, like, whether it be whoever you are, like, why would you do that to someone? Just treat me as who you want to be treated. Do you want to be treated with respect and dignity and as a person? Okay, then we're fine. Unless you've done something for me to not respect you, I'm going to treat you just how I would like to be treated.
Exactly. And I think that should be common sense, but a lot of people...
Common sense ain't common anymore.
Literally. And I think the thing about, like, specifically racism against Asians is a lot of times, like, or I would say probably every time, it's that they do not see us as one of them. Like, we're not American. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a citizen. It doesn't even matter if you were born here. Like, the whole thing is, like, we're us, you're you, we're different.
I feel like, depending on the person, they hear China, and it's like...
Literally,
it's like a fucking psych snap. It's just like, what?
Yes, people hate China specifically. Like
propaganda has gotten us bad. They think propaganda only happens in other countries like North Korea and stuff. No, it happens here too, folks.
Literally,
it happens here too. Until you actually branch out and visit these countries, you're gonna realize how much we've been told isn't true.
Literally, yeah. And a lot of like racist people, they hate China for a lot of things that are a problem here too. They're like, they don't respect women. I'm like, oh yeah, and the U.S. is like notorious for respecting women. Like what? Like we don't respect.
Did you see who we vote for?
Literally, we voted for the dude saying grab him by the pussy and like walking into like teenage girls' changing rooms and bragging about it. Like, okay, we don't respect women here too because over half the people voted for that. And then like what else? They're like, oh, they don't treat their workers right. Like, okay, yeah, and we do in the U.S. The minimum wage is like $7.25 still. Like,
Why do you think we have unions here?
literally, because if we didn't, like, they would keep fucking us over, like they were with the coal miners and all that back in the day.
It still happens now. I mean, that's a reason why I think if we want to get a little political, Kamala lost is because apparently she didn't talk enough about workers' rights, and that
I agree.
a lot of workers were like, "What about us?" Like, I know you talk about women's rights, but what about the people that who literally like we have a lot of shit to go through in the economics and the laws and the bypasses and all the taxes that we get cut off from. Like, what are we going to do? What's going to help us? And no one talked about like how they're going to help them get better wages and better benefits. And
that was in the plan too. And in my opinion, what she should have done, or what I think she could have done better, is like she did talk about the economic policies and this and that. But like for someone who's not as like we're into politics, like we enjoy it, we read about it. Somebody that just has an extra 15 minutes to turn on the news, they don't. Not to like sound like I'm smarter than anyone, it's just that I'm more interested and have more time to devote to this. But like they're not gonna want to sit there and read all your policies on your website. Trump's getting up there and being like, if you're poor, you won't be anymore, which is an oversimplification. But I think Kamala could have simplified things more.
I have a funny story. My dad actually said this. He was like, who you gonna hear more? A kid talking about, oh, if we get fair grades, you know, we all have, you know, if we do this work and that work, we all get good grades, or a kid that says free ice cream, which is going to get their attention more. And that's what it reminded me of, because people just hear money or grabbing words, just something to grab their attention.
Yes.
And by the way, folks,
Eggs are expensive.
Well, I'm going to say, I was going to say that you got to remember, Trump's a businessman. He knows how to get the people's attention because he knows how to grab people's like eye of like profit. It's like a profit almost. It's like what gets people to buy me more, to vote for me more. So he's gonna say the most outlandish shit and the stuff you want to hear. That doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
No, exactly.
But
I agree.
it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. It's like he read my mind. It's like, no, you're just fucking stupid. Like, you're easy to read. Of course you want cheaper gas prices. Everyone wants that. I want cheaper gas prices. Literally. It costs money to get here.
Literally, I'm like, no, actually, I want them to be more expensive. Like, duh, I want that too.
Of course I want cheaper egg prices. Of course we want cheaper prices in general.
Right.
Everyone would want that. I think who in the right mind would want it to be more expensive?
Literally. And yeah, that's the thing is I think Kamala approached it as an experienced politician with well thought out plans. And I think that's wonderful, but I don't think that's the majority of the like American voter base is the problem. Like, I think that Trump approached it as a reality TV star because that's what he is.
Entertainment.
Right. So he was just like, he didn't get up there and he talked about concepts of a plan. But he didn't get up there and talk about like the actual specifics of it because he doesn't know. He's just like, oh, people are taking your jobs and I'm going to give them back. Oh, and everyone's like, yeah.
How are you going to give your jobs back? We'll deport the illegals. And it's like, what the fuck?
Literally. Which brings me to my next thing, the big thing about adoption, is that a lot of people don't realize that if you're an international adoptee, you are an immigrant. Like, we
are immigrants. Technically, everyone here besides Native Americans are immigrants.
Yeah, that is true, too. Like, everyone is descendant of an immigrant. Almost everyone is descendant of immigrants. But, like, yeah, adoptees, we are immigrants. Like, people don't see it that way because, like, our parents were born here and stuff. But I'm like, we were not.
I think that's something that, like, scares me a little bit because what did Trump say about like natural born citizens or something?
Yeah, if you're a natural born citizen, you're like safe, but for people that were like became citizens later in life, there's been talk of like denaturalization, which is really
denaturalization
scary.
That was it. And I looked, you know, my brother's like, are you sure that's right? And I'm like, Zach, I'm not gonna say we're off the chopping board, but damn, don't think we're not. You know,
yeah.
Like we're
not their main priority, but we're not on the list.
Yeah, like we not might be number one, but we might be top 5.
Literally,
because that's scary. Because right now it's like the Red Scare. You know,
yes.
The first to get people's attention was Russian spies.
Yes,
and then
the ones meddling in the election for Trump.
And then now, and you know, let's say back then it was. Let's go even further back. Let's go to World War II. How did Germany, especially Hitler, get to power? He blamed it on the Jews.
Yes.
And who are we blaming it now on? the immigrants.
You are spitting straight facts
And
right
it's
now.
like people say it's different, but it's like, look at it. Yeah, we might have technology now. We might have, it might not be the same exact words.
Right.
But you're not saying that history is slowly repeating itself?
Yeah.
And they might not call concentration camps. No, you're right. It might be called something completely different. It might be called something, what, it was like an immigrant, like they hold like a place for immigrants to first be taken off. And it's not a great place, by the way. I looked at pictures of it. It is literally, it's almost kind of like a pound, but for humans.
Yes. Like are you talking about like at the southern border? Where
Yeah.
It's like the kids are like literally, they have like the aluminum blankets and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so, yeah, it's unethical. We have too much money to be treating people that way. Yeah. No, but back to your point about like how people come to power by blaming it on other groups. That's a really big problem. And that's been like for centuries. That's how dictators come to power, and people fall for it
because they use fear. Fear is such a
Yes.
good tactic for control. My dad believes that fear is a great power for control, and I agree with him.
Oh yeah.
But he
yeah.
thinks only, liberals and Democrats do it. No, conservatives and Republicans do the exact same thing.
Oh yeah.
It's just because what you're hearing makes more sense than what they're hearing, because it doesn't align into your beliefs.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm saying, like, hey, look, I agree. Democrats have used fear to control people.
Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I've seen that happen. I mean, we lived it.
Yeah.
And I've seen conservatives do it. And I don't like either, but I'd rather not be deported personally. Because one, if I go back to Foshan, first off, I don't know a word of Cantonese. Two, I don't even know, like, we talked about family, right? Like, I actually don't know if my family would even want me back or know about me, because we were out for 6 months on a flyer. Like, whose child is this? Whose child is this? No one says shit. They're like, okay, to the adoption center you go. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's just kind of, you're literally on your own.
That's so scary to me, because that happens with people that have like DACA and get deported. Like they'll end up deported to a country that they literally, like, they don't know a single person, they don't know the language. I'm like, if that happens to us, like,
we're fucked.
Hopefully they'll let us go together.
Yeah. Can I just have a group of Asian Americans at least travel on foot to Hong Kong? Because that's the most, like,
literally
westernized we're ever going to get. Like, westernized.
Literally.
I'm not saying China isn't westernized, but I mean westernized, like, they literally just got a British colonization. So
yeah.
Besides the point, that's scary. I'm not trying to fearmonger, because that's the last thing I want to do.
Right. Like,
and
I don't want
maybe
it to happen, but we gotta think about it being a possibility.
But, like, I don't want to fearmonger. Maybe it couldn't happen, but at the same time, it's gotta be something that you gotta prepare for. It's gotta be something that you have to think of, like, will this happen? Like, will it actually?
Yeah.
Like, is this something that I'm going to have to think about and actually prepare and plan for? Because my dad always has to plan and prepare for stuff that anything can happen. It's better to need and not have, and have and not need.
Yes.
And my dad says that all the time. And, my dad says I don't listen. And I might not look like I don't listen, but I listen to a lot of what he says. And I take a lot of what he says to heart, because it's good private lessons. Now, we might not have the same beliefs, but I do love my dad very much. And so I listen to that, and I'm like, okay, I'm grabbing what you said. I'm using that to my own, what I believe.
Yes.
And I'm looking at that, and I'm like, I don't really like this idea. I really don't like the plans that Trump's talking about. I really don't like how this country is turning into, because as a Christian myself, we should be loving one another, because that's literally what Jesus said. And all I see right now is volatile hate.
Yes.
And bigotry, and it's just...
Yeah, and it's specifically in the Bible is like, don't act like that. Like, don't be judgmental, don't be hateful. And then people are just like, I hate Asians. And it's like, wait, that's like not...
That's not
what
it
said at all.
And it says, like, in the Bible, the 10 Commandments is still important, but it literally says in Matthew that these new commands to give to you, first 2 commandments was, no gods before me.
Right.
Which is like no idolatry.
Right.
And then love your neighbor like yourself. And that's like, how do you want to be loved? Like, how do you view yourself? So you want to be loved, right? So you should love them back. And I mean, and that means everyone. Like, it could be Jews, Islam, like Muslims.
Right.
It can be people who are black, white, Asian, Hispanic.
Right.
And it's like, they hear that, but they don't actually
literally
take
like,
it in.
cognitive dissonance. Like it's literally like they're like, yeah, that's good stuff. And then they turn around and like hate crime someone the next day, and it's like, wait a second, like I thought you said that was good stuff. Like,
Yeah, like we just had this Bible lesson like a week ago.
literally, it's like when they get back from church and then they go out to eat and like verbally assault a waitress that's 18 years old.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, dude, whew. That's why as someone who is a waitress and someone who is in the church, like I will hope I would never do that to anyone, no matter how I may seem irritated or tired. Like no one deserves that.
Literally, I'm like, waitresses make $2 an hour. Like,
We are trying our best, man. We are trying our damnedest.
It's so hard. Waiting tables also, but that happens a lot. They're like, oh, where's he from? I'm like, here. Like, really, from here.
Yeah, like he is
from here.
Born and raised, quite literally.
Yeah, literally, like for generations. But yeah, the family history thing, like, it's always so, because then it's awkward, like, because they'll be like, oh, okay, moving on.
They're like, oh, okay, well, anything else you know of? I'm like, I just have a brother. My brother doesn't know shit either. And that's how we figure out together. Yeah. Because I look at my brother like, hey, whatever you got, I probably have the same damn thing.
We're twins, right? Like,
yeah, we're twins, but we're not identical. So we still have a different DNA. But if it's anything like health-wise, like, oh, you have high blood pressure? Yeah. I probably do too. You have a likely chance of getting a heart attack? So do I.
Yeah, and what's scary too is like a lot of those things, like, and that I wonder about that too, like back to the hereditary stuff, like having biological kids. I don't know if that's something you want or not. I'm very on the fence.
I do, just because it's like, because I want kids in general. Like, I do want to, like, but it's because I know what a kid it takes. Like, I love kids. I've taken care of kids at churches and stuff, but I don't want a kid now. Like, I want kids, but not now for sure. Yeah, I want to be healed. I want to be married. I want to have the money. Yeah, yes. I want the money for not only for myself, but for my kid to have a better life. Like, to have the needs and wants. Yeah. And I'm not talking about basic needs. I'm talking about, like, they can literally.
Range Rover 16th birthday.
Yeah, like. Exactly. Like, I want them to have everything I have and more. And that's how my dad is, too. Same. Like, I want to have I have and more. Like I want them
to have their needs and their wants covered.
Yeah. I want them to feel loved and know that they are loved, and that's something I want a kid. Like, I do want a biological kid, because it's also, it's like, it's scary to hear about it, but like me and my brother might be the only ones, like, family members, and we just not know it. So I just, like, that's something else. But at the same time, it's eugenics, or is that what it's called? Eugenics?
Yes.
Because they're like, you should marry who you want. Like, that's very eugenic. But at the same time, it's like, do you really want to give a kid all these diseases, and not only just your partner, but for yourself? Like, some people have decided not to have kids because, like, I don't want my kid to go through all the stuff that I went through. Like, that just sounds like fucking hell. Yeah. Or I don't put a kid in this world because this world's already fucked up enough as it is. I ain't letting them go through that.
Literally, I'm very on the fence because of that. But I think that the eugenics argument is very, like, it's a very slippery slope, because there are a lot of things that you could say are eugenics or not. Because, like, I think a big one is, like, I think it's Iceland. It's not Ireland. They're too Catholic for that. I think it's Iceland, where, like, they don't, like, have Down syndrome because they have early abortions if they find out the kid's going to have Down syndrome. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it, but I'm also just, like,
I understand.
It's a life of suffering. Like, not saying, like, that's all life is when you have Down syndrome, but, like, that one's just very slippery slope.
I think it's just a culture thing, I feel like, because in America we've been taught, especially, like, for Christians, it's like, you can abort this kid, like, once life is conceived, it's considered a living being, and if you abort it, you know, you face judgment. And it's just kind of like, maybe it's because they're not religious, you know, they're not Christian, so I think they just say, oh, this kid's gonna have this, I don't know if I can raise a kid like that. I don't want a kid to go through that, so I'm just gonna abort it early.
Right, because I think, like, also, like, at that stage, like, it gets very muddy quickly, because it's like that's the biggest, like, example I can think of is the abortion and the Down syndrome thing. It's like, and like you said, like, that's why I'm like, you make your own decision. That's not my place. Yeah, because I don't know how I feel about it, honestly.
I think it's just more the fact that whatever you feel like, do you think, oh, I can do this, it doesn't matter, I'll still love this kid forever, or more of like, I can't do it.
But yeah, that brings me to another really big thing is adoption. People frame it as like there's adoption as an alternative or a solution to abortion, and in my opinion, those are two completely separate things.
I think people see adoption as a way to save yourself from abortion, because You know, it's just been taught. I think, especially down here, like, oh, if you can't have
We're
the
in
kid,
Alabama, by the way.
yeah, we live in the Bible Belt. Just take it as it is. But if they say, oh, you know, if you can't have it, at least you give it to a family who wants a child.
Give it like it's a thrift store find.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Oh, I like this one.
Literally.
Yeah, and so that's just kind of like, it's better than, you know, killing a baby. And so it's like, damn, you know, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, you might want to reword that a little differently.
Literally.
Just because you're making it sound like you're picking clothes at like a clothes shop.
Yes. I'm also like, leave me out of this. Like, you know, like adopted people did not consent to be your like conservative, like gotcha moment.
Yeah.
Like,
Like
adoption. Like, I didn't, leave me out of this. Have all the abortions you want. Have at it. Like,
I think of more of like, look, I'm adopted. I'm gonna say my truth is like, I am happy that I'm adopted, and I am happy the family I've got and where I am now, because I wasn't in. I mean, like, we Foshan. I don't know if it's poor, but it's like, or like a poverty place in China or city, but where I was in Foshan definitely didn't have a lot.
yeah.
So I am grateful for that. I'm grateful to be here, especially where I am and where I live. But at the same time, I'm like, I can't just sit here and say, you know, oh my gosh, this is why you can't abort this and this and that. Like, that's just like, this is my person.
There were so many protesters like screaming at me outside, and they were
I
like,
would just yell back, I'm getting fucking birth control.
that's what literally like word for word I said, and they were like, why would you support this company? And I was like, because they're giving me birth control. Like, what? Like,
because it costs money.
Literally, yeah.
It's the cheapest option.
Literally, and
you
like,
think it's just abortions? It's more than just that. Like, I feel like the people out there don't do their research.
Literally,
and they just an echo chamber.
And I'm like, even if it is just abortions, like, okay, fuck off. Like, leave me alone. Like, if I'm here to get my... That's the thing, is a lot of women have literally no one. Or if the people that are around them don't support that or believe in that. So it's hard. And that's also why things like Planned Parenthood are such a great thing, because that they can be that resource for people that don't have anyone that they can go to. And that's why I think it's so evil for, like, you know, these Christian protesters to hang out outside Planned Parenthood and call people murderers. Like, you don't know. They could be there for birth control, or they could be there because they just got raped last night. Like, you don't know.
Exactly. I remember seeing on the news about an old girl who got raped and went there the next night or the next morning or something. They were protesting, calling her like names and saying, oh, you're going to hell. And I think this girl looked really young. And it's just kind of like, first off, God would put you in the first doorsteps of hell.
Literally.
You're never seeing those pearly gates.
Literally.
Second
God
off,
be like, roll the clip.
Yeah. We're going to see what you did wrong. Come on. This is what you did here.
Reel.
And I think people also, like, they look at God's words and perverse it, because they say, God wouldn't want this, and you're right. But God would also want you not to fucking yell at them and harass these people and judge them, like, oh, yeah, totally. You're a fucking slut. And they're like, what?
Yeah, they told me, because I was there to get birth control, they were like, you're depriving yourself of the greatest joy of womanhood. I was like,
the greatest
joy
joy
is so much more than that, dude.
Yeah, the greatest joy of womanhood is going to be me with my degree. It's my greatest. Like, I'm going to be rocking that cap and gown.
Slay.
And having my own apartment, that's a great joy of womanhood. If anything, womanhood has started, I would say womanhood is literally me living out my adulthood. Yes. It didn't start when I had my child. It started when I first got in this world.
Yes.
I now, like, it was a bumpy road, don't get me wrong. You had to live through it and I had to learn through it. But I know a lot of people who have PCOS freeze their eggs because they don't know when they can have a kid again. So they freeze their eggs.
How do they get them out is what I've always wondered. Like, do they have to cut you open?
I thought it was a needle in a way, but I don't know for sure. I mean, we can always look it up.
Does it go through this way or this way?
I always thought it would go through that way, but they could cut you open a little bit. Just like, it could be either or. I think whatever easier access. I have never looked into it. Just
in my experience with people I know, it's the people that do that just have kids and don't plan for things and whatever. Those are the ones that are against abortion. And it's like, dude, like, you can't. I don't agree with your choices either. So what are you doing telling other people what they can't? I didn't tell you couldn't do what you wanted with your body in your life. Why are you telling me?
Yeah, exactly. It's a little hypocritical, don't you think?
Exactly. I'm like, take care of the ones you got. Don't worry about other people having abortions. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I think adoption is always like proposed as like an alternative to abortion. I think it's like, those are totally different things that have their own sets of pros and cons and this and that, like, but I hate the way they're always like inseparable. Like, and you see a lot of people that are adopted, like, make it a whole thing where they're like, I'm adopted and I'm so glad my life was saved. Like, okay, I'm glad your mom had the choice.
People use abortion as a way, or not abortion, but adoption as a way of not getting an abortion, basically,
Yes.
and how it's intertwined but should not be intertwined.
Right.
And I agree with you because, I mean, I can say, like, yeah, you can adopt. And I'm like, yeah, I could. But at the same time, it's like, it's not always the option you should choose or can choose. The 23andMe I haven't tried. I tried the Ancestry, but I think it's kind of a scam because...
Scamcestry?
Yeah, because they said my brother was, like, a Mongolian, but I had Italian. I was like, what the fuck?
And you're twins?
And we're twins. And I was like, why does he have Mongolian and I have Italian? So I had to give a double take. I'm like, Marco Polo? What are you doing here?
That's so funny. Marco Polo.
Marco Polo.
I'm actually Christopher Columbus.
Yeah. Like, Marco Polo.
Amerigo Vespucci, I love your work.
Yeah. You got some explaining to do.
That's interesting. Okay, so you said that was Ancestry?
I think so.
Okay,
I was like, but I'm just going to probably just do 23andMe. There's a lot of times like, they're going to take your name, they're going to take your DNA. And I'm like, look, the government's got
Social Security number.
The government's already got everything to this point. They're going to sell it over the black market. I'm like, they ain't going to get shit from me. I'm promising you that much.
Literally, I'm like, what are they going to do? Inherit my student loans? I don't care.
Student loans, you know, take them. I don't need them.
Literally, I'm like, take my debt. I don't care. Like, what? But yeah.
I promise if you kill me, you ain't getting nothing from me.
Literally.
You ain't going to gain anything from it either.
Like, you're not getting hostage money either. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, like, the 23andMe, I go back and forth all the time on whether I want to do that or not. Because I think my thing is, like, I don't know if I'm scared that I'm going to find family or if I'm scared that I'm not.
I actually found apparently a cousin of mine.
Really?
She was adopted too, and the mom texted me and messaged me. It's like, oh my gosh, I can tell y'all related, like the closest of relatives. I'm like, yeah. Me and my brother were adopted. To be like more affiliated with the Chinese culture. Like, I didn't even know what hot pot was until I was 21.
I still don't know what a hot pot is.
It's literally just you get a broth base. It's really hot. You get some meats and veggies, and you cook it in that really hot, like it's hot temperature broth. Like you cook it in that, and then you get like a sauce bar. You make a sauce that dip it in, and it's just so good. It's so good. They have a veggie one that I think you'll like.
That does sound
so,
good.
and you get all these vegetables. There's a hot pot place here in Huntsville we can go to.
Is it the Ding Hao place?
No, it's another place. Ding Hao also, by the way, a poor place that burned down.
What?
Yeah, they're not open anymore.
No.
They're burned down again. By the way, it's called Ding Hao 2 because the first one burned down. So yeah, now it's gonna be Ding Hao 3.
Wait. Okay, so when is Ding Hao 3 coming?
We don't know because they first tried to like renovate, like try to fix the place, but it was unsalvageable. So they have to buy a new place. And me and my brother have been fucking starving for dim sum. Like we have been desperate for this dim sum. Like I want it so fucking bad. I miss the dumplings, the shumai, the fucking chicken feet. I miss it all. Like give it to me.
Chicken feet. Oh, see, I can't get with that.
See, I feel like I'm the most culturally like accepted person out of like my brother and my friends and family.
Yeah.
Because I will eat anything. I'm like, I'll try it once. I'll try it once.
If I wasn't vegan, I would be like that, I think. Like,
yeah.
Once, sure, maybe, but I was good.
Well, you're also vegan. I feel like your view of meat and like animals is just so much different from mine because I see it food.
Yeah.
You're like, I'll eat that plant though. Like, I'll eat the
Yeah.
vegetable.
Me with my rotted kale that was in the trash. But all right, thank you so much for coming. Where can people find you online? What's your socials?
Oh God. Well, I guess the biggest you can do is my Instagram. It's just _Zoe.West_. And that's it.
Slay. All right, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you guys have a great night or day or whatever time of day you're listening to this. This has been the Insufferable Grifter Show. I'm Mulan Throneberry. Good